Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast. We've got another episode this week that is just going to be absolute fire. I am so excited because we have Dr. James Bush in the house. And as you know, Impact Effect podcast, true fashion. We start out by asking every guest the same first question. How do you show up in the world and provide impact today?
I think one of the things is I go from that biblical scripture that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. So we are all unique within our own right. We all have our various seasonings that we add to this gumbo, as they say. I'm not from New Orleans, but it's just I like food. So my thing is that as long as I am being authentically me, my most authentic self, then that's how I provide impact. But in order to do that, what I must do is I have to take the journey of you, the journey of me, which means that I have to learn who I am. And a lot of times that's tough because we're in a world full of copycats and fads and things that are impressionable, and someone wants to have the best speech of the day or the best comment of the day or the best take of the day. And I mean, yeah, that's cool and all, but what about if you just show up as Jim? Or what if you just show up as James? It means a whole lot. It's like, for instance, when I was at your Jenny party the other night, I actually had a wow, aha, proud moment because we're all going around the table providing feedback, comments, and everything. And sometimes in those spaces before, we go and we try to outdo one another, right? We try to have the best take. I didn't try that anymore. I just said something and I moved on to the next thing and drunk my seltzer. Yada, yada, yada. I can't say what the answer on camera, but yeah.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me. And living in my truth, living in that existence is a beautiful place to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's profound. It's actually brilliant is what it is, because you've had a real life reflection. You were put in a situation where you were so aware of how you may previously would have acted.
Yes.
And then flip the script.
Definitely.
And I think that is one of the hardest things to do, because we educate, we learn, we grow, we become aware.
Yes.
But to take that action when you understand that awareness and to do something differently in that moment,
yes,
it's just brilliant. It's amazing in so many different ways. You know,
it's trailblazing. Because a lot of times we have people,
trailblazing. I like that, man. I like that.
And sometimes we call those individuals eclectic or they are the social pariahs, but in all actuality, they're just being who they are. But because society has norms that sometimes we conform to, and let's be honest, there are things that as individuals, as humans, we would hope that each of us would do, just for some form of decorum or good manners. But every now or then, there's some things that, hey, this is the uniqueness. This is the fine tuning. This is what colors outside of the lines, but provides value. It provides insight, intrigue, or what. And I think that's where many of us are. But unfortunately, we're too afraid to do such. So that's where I line up on there. Take the journey of you, take the journey of me, and learn that person, embrace that person. Don't walk away, don't be fearful. And you never know of the tribe or the community that you run into that will help push you in the direction that you need to be. Because we all have a destination.
All have a destination. Mm-hmm. And how do we put ourselves around the right people that will continue to push us when we need to be pushed?
Right.
My TEDx talk that I recently did talks about someone, not something, is the catalyst to push you to follow your dreams.
Exactly.
And that's why I dig community so much. People are like, hey, you're building the community, you've got impact effect. I said, yeah, it helps me just as much as it helps everybody else.
Yes.
Let's not put aside the fact that I need it, just like my other brother and my other sister that's in this group trying to figure it out, trying to get ahead, trying to learn, trying to share the mistakes and the optics and the logistics so you don't have to go through it the hard way.
But something you just said right there is that my brother and my sister, they are trying to learn, right? So get this, it calls patience. We have to be patient with one another. Unfortunately, we're in a microwave generation where we don't want to wait for minute rice. We want everybody to get it just like that, just like this, just like this, just like that. And that's not the way life works. That's not like the way human existence works. A lot of the things that we've had, they've come through trial and error, tests, tough times, failure, but triumph in the end. I mean, I'm from the 80s. I'm an 80s baby. And I remember through the 80s, we had all these different kung fu and karate pictures, right? Where the protagonists would get their ass whooped for about 3/4 of the movie. Then all of a sudden he meets this Shaolin monk or this teacher and they take him out somewhere away, train him, he gets focused, he gets stronger. Then he comes to overcome the giant and beat the villain in the end.
Yep.
But that was a process. None of us want to wait for the process. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that are somewhat attached to us, they don't want to wait either. They want it right now. And so when it's not happening in a quick or fashionable moment, they discard you. They berate you. And what does that do? That sends a signal to the onlookers and pulls on depression and anxiety and stress that, look, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I gotta be a perfectionist, I gotta do this. And then now what? It's unfortunate.
When you are in those situations, how do you stay focused? How do you trust the process? How do you have faith that you're building towards what you're seeking or what you're chasing?
One of the things is you got to know what the goal is. I don't allow other individuals to tell me where the goal is. There's short-term goals and there's long-term goals. So as long as I know that I'm moving towards that direction, I'm okay. If we did 16 one month, but we did 8 the next month, okay. This is a learning opportunity. It's cognitive reframe. Sometimes you got to reframe the moment, reframe the situation, because it's not always bad. There are learning opportunities that will help you grow exponentially. But if you just allow yourself to go off of bare bones, simple logic is not going to get it done. You have to be able, again, color outside the lines. You have to have vision, have to have insight. Okay, what did I miss? What do I need to do better this time around? Okay, I can go and I can pay this person and that person and this person and that person or whatnot. But again, that doesn't get me the overall goal that the creator has, put in a position for me to receive. So what do? I got to be patient with myself. And I got to know, okay, this is where I'm going. I'm getting closer. What else do I need to do? Then I may bring in other helps or other individuals who are proficient in that manner that I am willing to receive from. That's the case. Because a lot of us don't want to listen to nobody. I got this, it's like Mike Lowry and Bad Boys. I got this, I got this, I got this. No, you don't.
Nope.
And you have to humble yourself very much. And it's a process that, again, in our generation, that many people don't like embracing because no one wants to perceivably look like they are weak.
Where'd you learn all this?
Trial and error.
Can you share kind of that first instance where you
Jim, let me be honest with you. I'm from the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I came down to Fisk University in 1999. I didn't have a clue about life. I just know I had to get out of that area. Love that area, love the food, love the family, love the hustle. But I had to leave to grow. So I went to Fisk and I dropped out of school twice. Twice. It takes a person with real character to drop out of school twice. I went back though, people. I did go back. But I dropped out. Of all things, got married. And went to work in a sheet metal fabrication plant in Laverne, Tennessee, where we made record parts for Peterbilt trucks. So you have this young early 20-something-year-old kid working in this factory with 50, 40, and 60-year-old males. Some of them are felons.
Wow.
I learned so much from them guys. I learned about life. I learned about just existing, being. And some of them I still keep in contact with today. Great bunch of guys. You talking about brothers, they taught me a whole lot. And whatever linear path that I thought life was, because I saw some of them on their journeys. Because some of them, they had been in, different situations, God forbid, but guess what? They were working on becoming a paralegal, or they were working on a business idea, or they had some other type of hustles, or they were married and they had families in different situations, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, granted, it's not a feel-good story for all of them, because some of them had some hardships as well too. But my point is, I sat back and I watched. I soaked it up like a sponge. And then when it was my time for me to move on, I was able to move on, but I was able to move on more efficiently in my 30s as opposed to a young 20-year-old punk. Yeah.
What's some of the things that those guys taught you?
Patience. Patience. They taught me about just being who you are. It was funny because being in that space, I mean, I never sold a pack. I never sold a dope or anything along those lines, but they did. But the fact is that for some reason, I was relatable to them. We can talk. I didn't come off as I know it all or I got it all together or because they're humans, they're people, you know. And I think one of the things that it marvels me about being a therapist is that everybody has a story. And so sometimes on the outside, we look and we judge another person's story based on our own logic or our own experience. But Jim, I'm going to tell you right now, bro, I don't know what I would have done in that space if something like that would have happened. If I had been given the same situation, the same set of circumstances, the same background, the same experiences, the same. I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same in some sense. I thank God I didn't have to.
It was really humbling this past weekend. I went to feed the homeless.
Yeah.
And right up the road here, there's a homeless camp.
Right.
Pretty big one.
Mm-hmm.
And you go in the camps in the morning and you let them know, hey, we're here. We've got food and water. We're not trying to hurt you.
Right.
Right. We don't want to startle people,
right.
especially in the morning when they're sleeping.
Right.
And you start to see different types of folks come out of the woods.
Yeah.
Like seriously, to walk out of the woods where they're living and to get this food, and you start to have some conversations with them.
Right.
And you have the person who's in their 60s and you don't know their story.
Right.
But they've made it 60 years. How many years have they been homeless?
Man.
40.
Wow.
That's the person who doesn't want to change. They want to live in that environment.
Right.
And no one's really pushing them to change, right?
Right.
There isn't that someone
Right.
that's there helping them day to day to get out. And then you start to have conversations around the person who, one of the guys came out, he had an ankle bracelet on, he was dressed well. He said he just got out of a 16-hour shift. He just woke up and he's thank you. This is a blessing. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you.
Right.
And this guy just worked 16 hours, had to walk from Broadway up Dickerson to get back to his tent to sleep for 2 hours. And he's thanking me, saying how great of a person I am.
Right.
And I don't know all his details, but you see those two different spectrums.
Right.
And you have to put yourself in the position of how close am I to that?
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, is it 2 paychecks away? Is it 4?
Yeah.
Is it 6? Is it
the IRS? Right.
Is it it hit me so deeply because growing up, my parents were addicted to OxyContin.
Yeah.
And I had everything and watched it slowly lose it, right?
Right.
And you move into this spot, and you change schools, and all these things happen. And it put me back in a frame of, dude, I was so close to that.
Right.
Right? Like we moved and didn't pay this landlord and got kicked out of here and then moved here. And it was like, we were one step away growing up.
Yeah.
And then it reminds me of, wait, there was a period of time when I was a junior in high school and I lived with a friend and I didn't know where my parents were. Right? So it's like, were my parents in the woods somewhere?
Man.
Who knows? So I get invited by a friend to go feed the homeless. I
Yeah.
don't know what organization it is. I just say, hey, this is on my heart. I want to bring more people into our local community. We've got the business community. Let me go
Yeah.
see this thing, and it puts me in a place where I realize I'm so close to this,
Man.
and I think a lot of people are, and
Yeah.
it could be anything. I mean, it could be a bad investment,
Yeah.
right? I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I've had the medical bills pile up after Caitlin went to the hospital. We
Right.
lost a child and she almost passed.
Right.
And
Right.
so, like, these instances where you're up and you're down, and it's just a threshold of how up are you and how down are you.
Yeah.
And it just put me into a real honest perspective of there's so many people I think that are closer to this.
Yeah.
And what happens if that one decision, that one thing happens, and you're now in that situation? Why not help the person who's hungry and needs food today? Am I out there educating them to get on their feet? No, I'm not, man.
Right.
I'm not. You know what I'm doing? I'm just making sure that that person has food today so they don't die.
It's funny you
Now,
said.
now, I have to share this with you too.
Uh-oh.
You saw me just come in.
Right.
I just drove by there.
Uh-huh.
The medical examiner was out front with 4 police officers.
Okay.
Someone in those woods died that I probably met Saturday.
Man. Yeah.
So how real is that? You know, like to go through that experience
Yeah.
and just to be driving by the one of the camps we stopped at, and just to see a medical examiner out there with 5 police officers. Like, what I witnessed was life,
Right.
and I wanted to help that life.
Right.
And now I've just witnessed that one of those people aren't here anymore.
That's right.
How do we show up? How do we follow our dreams? How do we realize that we have to help humanity, knowing that we could just be a paycheck away from that same situation? It's a deep question that's on my heart.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
feel like we got to talk about it more. We got to
mean,
do stuff like this
we
and
have
tell the
to.
truth,
Yeah,
man. You know?
we have to, because Maslow hierarchy of needs, one of the most basic needs is food, water, shelter. They don't care about doctor this or that. They don't care about that I can go and rattle off stuff about CBT, DBT. They don't care that I know how to motivationally interview an individual. They don't care that I have the Four Horsemen of the Divorce of the Apocalypse by John Gottman. They don't care about any of that. They're just looking for basic needs. They're looking for a human connection at that point in time. And sometimes human connection isn't about just, man, big speeches or anything. It's like just meeting them with a heart.
That's it, man. One pulse to another.
Yeah. It's just like, man, hey, you hungry? I'm hungry too. We just sit. We ain't got to talk about anything. We just sitting there and just eating.
That's it.
And that's all that matters. And at that point, you build connection.
Yeah.
You build rapport with individuals. I tell my supervisees that within their clinical settings, once you build rapport with a client, you can go just about anywhere you want to go. But you got to be able to connect with them.
It has to be that trust.
Definitely. You got to build that trust. So, yeah.
It was just a really interesting perspective, to just see it so clear and so rapid. And, how do we bring that to the folks who may not have that visibility, right? For me, when we were going around, they're like, it's going to be, a lot of people, this is intense, and, things like that. And it's like, I know, I've seen it.
It's humbling.
And how do we bring awareness to more people? And not that you need to stroke a big check, but I just want you to realize that they're humans.
Right.
And this is real. And as much as you don't want to look and see it, when you go 7 feet behind the first couple trees, this is reality.
Yeah. Right.
So
Reality.
It's just an interest. We talk about impact and we talk about all these things, and it's like, that's on my heart. I need to do something and position myself to bring awareness to it.
Love it, yeah.
And be me.
There you go. And be you, authentically you.
With your work, with what you're doing as a therapist, you must have hard days absorbing some of these things. Is
Not
it
really.
challenging?
Nah, I'm nosy.
No?
I'm nosy. For all my clients that are going to see this, yes, I'm nosy. I say that tongue in cheek because I'm a student of life. I'm a student. I learned a long time ago, especially when I was working in that factory, there's so much I don't know. So much. To the point where I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody. I don't want to take their reality away from them. Mm-hmm. I've seen people do that. And I've seen people walk out and crumble because of that. They felt there was no connection, no one that understood. So I listen and I ask questions and I take a journey with them and we see if we can possibly find solutions. We set goals. Sometimes the goals go really well. Sometimes they don't. They go horribly. But it's all a part of the journey. I mean, just because that you went 20 paces to the right when you're supposed to keep straight, at least you knew to turn around at some point and then get back on path where you're supposed to be. So hard days, not necessarily. I've worked with all kinds of individuals, from criminal activity to pain, loss, grief, etc., etc. I think that's something that God has just given me, where it's just I don't really take any of it home. I question, I ponder, I'm inquisitive about, man, that's interesting. It's almost like a movie, but it's real life.
It's interesting you talk about the gift you have to do that, because I can't do that.
Oh man, okay.
If you and me are going to go down a path of grief and hardship, I'm going to take those emotions on myself.
Right.
So that's why I asked you, because I could never do that. It's so to the point where I've thrown an event, unbelievable feedback, emails, text messages, phone calls. Like, I show you them. Like, I save them because of my down days where I'm a human. I have bad days, right? So I scroll through them to get myself back up. And this is why we do it, even though it's hard and this didn't work or that didn't work. But in those moments where all those things are happening and they're great, one person has a complaint at one of my events, and I just took on all that negative energy, and it superseded over all the positive. You can ask my wife. I was going crazy about it. And when you look out from a 30,000 foot view perspective in, it shouldn't ruffle my feathers. I shouldn't feel that emotion. But as I ask questions, I start to realize, wow, this person is hurt. Wow, they're not really mad. Yeah. Wow, I did go over and above. Right. Wow, I actually look back and this person complaining didn't even pay to be in the room, because I felt called to help them out because they're in a tough situation and a client didn't pay them. But yet I'm feeling all those emotions. So for me, it's really hard to separate that. And I do think it's a gift, man. I do think you have a gift.
I have this. There's a statement in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but the key point of it is that acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. And acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. I don't look for the things I can change in other individuals. I look for those things in which I can change within myself. And so when I have those moments of, just like you, I get compliments, I get people that send me X, Y, and Z. I don't really, just like, okay, right there. When I have some type of negative feedback or that kind of thing, then I kind of get my eyes up, I pay attention. I'm like, you motherfucker. Just like, I'm in that space. But I think it's being able to accept the human spirit and that knowing that you can't please everybody. Yeah. You can, it's like one of my favorite personalities, David Goggins. He makes this statement. He says, man, if people saw you walking on water, they would say it's because you couldn't fucking swim. Gotta love Goggins. Gotta love Goggins.
He's right, though.
Yeah, and
we've all done it.
Exactly.
We've all said something that
we've always been on both sides of the coin when it comes to that. And so it's understanding, how those things transpire. And it's like, okay, I accept that. I do, and I move forward. I try my best not to dwell on it or anything. But again, when it comes to uniqueness of different experiences, you empathize with people. Because somebody has to be able to be upright when other ones are down.
100%. There's always someone you need to grab onto when you're in the depths of your darkest days to
Right.
pull you out. But there's also validation in that person pulling you out
Yeah.
to celebrate on that mountaintop together.
Exactly.
Right? And it's like that level of beautiness where when you're going down to reach for that hand to pull that person up, it's almost like for me, instantly I realize I'm going to be down there at some point.
Right.
And it's not so much of let's do this so I can prepare for the future when I need it, but it's the right thing to do at the right time.
My sister, we talk just about every morning, and
Every morning.
just about every morning. Yeah, we talk about every morning. We just around maybe 6 o'clock. We'll get on a phone call and we just talk about shit, anything, whatever. And she knows me where at first she didn't understand. She was like, "Why?" But then she says, "You process out loud. That's how you deal with stuff. You process out loud, and then when you got it, you've got it, and you move on." That's me. That's the uniqueness of who I am. Somebody else may do it differently. I don't want to go look in the bottom of a bottle. Not to say that people couldn't drink or anything along those lines, but I want to be able to get to the core of what it is here and here. I want to be able to learn from it. And sometimes those lessons don't come for maybe a year or two later, where I can look back and reflect on it and just say, you know what, I was off on this, or I wasn't really off on that. And it just didn't happen the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But once you got it, you got it. And you're better for it. Because that's the journey. That's the lesson.
With all your time spent with your clients and your education and your background, if you were to share the most important lesson that you've learned over this time, what would that be?
Two things I would say. I'll tell you a story. So, to get a license, you have to pass the National Clinical Mental Health Counseling exam. Shit's a beast. Especially, it's really a beast. First time I took it, I flunked it royally.
Did you study?
I did study.
You did?
I paid to study.
Yeah.
I still failed it.
Yeah. It's just that difficult. You put the effort in, but you were like, whoa, this thing's...
A lot of people that take that route fail it. So a lot of them won't have that mental health service provider designation as a credential. So the second time I took it, and I had going through the tests, I'm going through the questions, and Jim, I'm not feeling so good about it. I'm not feeling so hot. I'm just going through it. I'm going through it. Got it. And I'm like, yo, this is not going well. But I persevered and I finished. So one thing I learned is not necessarily how it looks in the meantime, in the moment. Sometimes you just got to keep walking, got to keep going. So I finished the test and I go to the receptionist lady, and you're going to get this test results right then and there. So she prints it out. She looks at it, turns it over, passes it to me. I'm trying to judge her reaction of like okay. So I don't look at the test. I don't look at the paper. I put it on the passenger seat, face down, and I ride around a little bit. And then I called my ex-wife at that time, and I said, I'm finished. He said, okay, how'd you do? I said, I don't know. I don't have a good idea about it. I don't have a good feeling about it. I said, but I'm going to go take the test, and I'm going to go put it in your car so that you can look at it and everything, whatnot. And so I went, I wrote it, put it in her car so she could look at it. Next thing I know, I got a call about 2 hours later. She said, did you look at it? I was like, no, I can't take failure today. I'm not going to be dealt with any kind of failure of any kind of sort. And she said, you should look at it. I'm like, so there it is. She pulls up to my job. She hands me the test. And I'm like, okay. So Then I get in my car. You know how sometimes you just kind of because you're gonna kind of brace yourself for the kind of inner. It said passed. That was one of the proudest moments ever in my life. Besides, man, holding my daughter and my son, that was a monumental moment because that's something that it gave me such anxiety. I worked hard at it. Even during the process, I felt like, man, I was failing, and I came out on the other end of it very well. And yet, in my clinical journey, I mean, I've had clients that have reached back out to me and they said, you know, you really were instrumental in a turning point of my son, you know, or I've got a lot of tools from you and what you were doing. I'm gracious. I'm thankful that they were able to benefit from it. Now, granted, I whipped on some of them too. I'm just going to be honest with you. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I am not perfect as a therapist. There are moments where I can help, and there's moments that I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on right here.
Yeah. But there's honesty in that.
It's very much honesty and transparency.
Yeah.
And it's needed. And then some people have left, and they came back. And sometimes it was better the second time around because we all were in a different space at that point in time.
Totally.
So my point is that, yeah, there are different moments, but passing that test and also seeing the ups and downs of running a business, starting a nonprofit, hoping that people actually show up at your event, and then all of a sudden the room floods with individuals. I'm like, it's a great moment.
It's you're telling that story, and I know how nerve-wracking looking at that test is because it reminds me of when I took the real estate test.
Mm-hmm.
By no means is it probably as hard as your test, but to each his own, right?
His own.
But I know the anxiety, the build-up, the
yeah.
pressure, the timeline. You've already made plans. Once you get the license, this is going to happen, and you're going to go here, and you're going to talk to, and maybe this person's waiting on you. And call me when you get the license, right, or the designation. So I understand that pressure, but you moved through it, and the only way to get through it is to land on the other side.
That's it.
And it happened, and it started a journey where you can now pour into other people and leverage those tools.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing, and I think, does it really feel as good if it's easy?
No.
It never has. In anything I've done.
You don't savor it as much if it's easy. Again, like
I mean, look what I just said about real estate, you know? If I really am honest, I'm like, it's not as hard. Because it wasn't hard for me. I didn't really study. I studied in the car before the test.
Wow.
I just passed. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't 100% Jim's a genius.
Yeah.
But it wasn't hard for me.
Right.
And, you know, you navigate those different things, and then I go into a different business or I do something different. It's extremely hard.
Well, you know what? I will say that because I have a nonprofit. I'm a co-founder with Belinda Yale Management, Dr. Omika McNeil. We have Let's Have Manifestation where we converse with focus. We help various men get over the various challenges and fill in the gaps in life. The nonprofit was a little bit more challenging in that sector. Clinically, start my shingle, made all my money in the investment, plus then some. Next thing you know, you're taking off. Man, you're over 6 figures. You're doing your thing, man.
Yeah.
Boom. You're not looking back. You're cool. You're great. But the other nonprofit sector is so different. It's filled with pitfalls and paperwork, and getting people to buy in, being vulnerable, asking, like you said at your table, asking for help. Oh God, asking for, and it's one of those vulnerable moments where I don't want to look soft. I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look like I'm begging, but I don't want to portray the cause either.
Well, I think it comes down to you're doing something uncomfortable and other people may be doing something similar, but do they care as much? Do they have the same why?
Right.
Are they pouring in? Do you your stuff, where the money's going.
Yeah.
You know the effect. You know the families you're helping. You
Definitely.
know the changes. And it's like, well, I can do the hard thing and I can do the uncomfortable thing and I can make all the calls and ask for the money. But it's hard to do unless you really understand the fact that they're going to donate to someone.
Yeah.
They're going to give money to someone.
Yeah.
Or they're not. And maybe they don't donate at all. And that's their personal preference. And I can't shun or be upset about anybody because you know what's best with your little green pieces of paper, not me. But you got to show up and make those asks, and you got to keep pushing because you believe in the cause. And it's like, I don't like to cold call. I don't really know a lot of people that do. I know some people that enjoy it and they make their money off of it, and it doesn't matter what they're calling for, and they just get in their rhythm. But I also know that from the consulting side, 98%, 99% of my clients hate it and don't want to do it. But are you going to not do it and watch your dream die?
That's the thing.
Or are you going to do it because you know you're going to have positive impact, and it's not even your dream anymore. It's the dream of the cause and the effect of the community and the organization you're building.
Right.
And those are hard, very hard moments. You can have passion and heart and still not want to pick up the fucking phone and make a cold call.
Heck no.
But at the end of the day,
I'm gonna call this guy right here, this one.
at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you either.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
And maybe if you just get through it this year, maybe someone does save you next year.
That's right.
Maybe in 2 years you find someone who goes, I love cold calling.
Right.
I'll do 5 hours a week every week. That's my charity for the year. I'm not going to give you $1, but I'll call for 5 hours a week.
Right.
And you solve that problem in year 5 of the charity.
That's right.
If you didn't get to year 5, you may never have been able to solve that problem. And that problem could have crippled you in year 1 or 2, year 2.
That's right.
It's hard to do. And I keep saying the word hard because I don't want to sugarcoat this. I've been on charity fundraisers. I've been on boards. I've helped people in our community. It's hard.
It is. It is.
And everybody thinks, oh, you're a charity. You can ask for money. Do you know how many other charities are asking that person for money?
Infinitely many.
And I'm not saying anything you don't know.
No, I mean,
and I probably haven't touched the surface of what you know and what you've dealt with and do.
Man, I mean, it's an unbelievable experience, but I think it's one of the greatest challenges and journeys that I've had, and I'll tell you why. Because it forces me to get outside of myself. It forces me to put in that extra year that, hey, I'm doing this so that others can benefit. I'm doing this so that the resources will be in motion for them to get the help they need. When you have individuals who need mental health and therapeutic services, but they don't have insurance, whatnot, so guess what? We are cold calling. We're having a fund that is developed for them so that they can get those resources. I mean, look, man, nothing against the insurance panels of America or whatever. It's a monster at times, because sometimes you have to meet that deductible. If your deductible is $10,000 or $15,000 from the median income family,
It's not just sitting around chilling.
No, it's not. So they don't have, and then also too, you need the sessions. You need the consistency of building and developing with that person so that the message sticks in. It doesn't just happen on a one-off. We can all go to the auditorium in high school and we just sit and we look at this person and we're just so enthusiastic about it and everything. Then we get out into research, or we don't remember what we heard. You need the consistency. You need the homework. You need the goal setting. You need the check-ins. But if you don't have that, or you don't have the resources to be able to do that, what are you going to do? Where does the change happen?
It's a consistent system that needs to be repeated so the progress can get embedded.
Exactly.
For the change to happen, for the courage, the inspiration to take the action, to do the thing that you may be avoiding, that you may not want to face. You may not want to analyze that grief or whatever it is, right? It could be a million different things. And I'm not a therapist by any means, but I've also worked through my own stuff.
Right.
And I've conversed heavily about that with others, whether they are therapists or they're not.
Right.
In more social, small, intimate groups. And I just consistently see that if the repetition is not there, whether it's me having a one-off conversation with a friend or a therapist in an office setting, there still needs to be that level of follow-up and consistency.
Yeah.
And we know that you don't retain everything you hear.
No.
So you have to have that second, third, fourth, fifth.
Yes.
So you can start to hear it multiple times to retain it, to then take action on it.
My Latin teacher, Miss Kay Rainville, said repetition is good for the soul. And I learned that that's needed. So in order for me to get to the repetition, I had to deal with the rejection.
Ooh.
And that's something that it plays in your mind before you even pick that phone up, before you make that bold ask, as Jim Morris would say. It plays in your mind that, man, I might get rejected. I might get played to the left. He might look at me and say, hell no, fuck you, or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to pick yourself up after that and do another and another and another, because you have an organization that's needing it. And that speaks to the power of resilience. Because at the end of it, one thing I did learn, because I told you, Jim, man, I dropped out of school twice. And so while I had it, I've had various mini jobs. I've tried to deliver phone books. I worked in a sheet metal factory. I worked as the food deliverer at the Sheraton Music City Hotel. But I also sold stuff that we would say came from eBay out of a box up and down Dickerson Pike. And they introduced this concept to me. They said it's the law of averages. I never forget, man. He said the law of averages. He said it works, it works, it works. If you get in front of enough people enough times, it's going to average out for your benefit. But the thing is you have to be consistent with it. And that's the best thing that as I'm telling you right now, that I'm kind of getting goosebumps about, because you've got to get in front of the people. You got to keep going. You got to keep asking and asking and asking and asking and asking. And sometimes when you get, man, they'll, okay, well, check back with me in a week. Write that down and then go back in a week or so and ask again. Hey, we're going to follow up with you, man. Do you got that like that? No. You got 50, you got 100, you got 500, you got 1,000. The law of averages actually works. But if you let rejection blind you from the tool, you'll never receive the blessing in the end.
That's profound. I mean, it's in every level of what you do.
Yeah.
Whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's partnership, whether it's your children, like you have to continue going. And enterprise, I mean, that's the definition of enterprising and finding those resources is how do you consistently show up and how do you get creative? And I'll share something with you right now. It's the first time I'm saying it on camera. I don't know if we're going to have a big conference this year, but there's one thing that I do know, that I'm going to ask every single person I talk to if they know of a venue that will help me out, because the cost has astronomically risen and is the biggest cost to put on the event.
Yes.
There's one problem I need help with, and I believe that our community can solve that.
Yes.
And by me showing up and asking and meeting more people and talking to more people, maybe getting into different groups and maybe going over and getting in this circle or asking to go to this event that I normally wouldn't go to, that doesn't align with my business, maybe doesn't look like a good lead source or doesn't look like something that I know or have knowledge around. Right? Maybe that person at that event or that experience has the solution.
Yes.
So how do I now get creative, right? I could have said, hey, let's do this again this year and come out in the red.
Right.
I can't do that to my family this year, right? We've got a little boy. We've got more expenses. We've got more stress.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
all the things, right? And instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do it, let's put it out in the universe.
Yes.
And I know that I need to talk to more people than I talked to last year.
Right.
Not even just to get them to come to the conference, just to get the conference to happen.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm navigating that. And I've had beautiful conversations. I went to a venue this morning. He's like, hey, we're building this and we're doing this. check back in with me, and I'd love to help you out. And I talked to a guy last week, and it was a friend of a friend, and he
Yeah.
said, hey, that guy is the guy that was going to connect you with me.
Right.
And I was like,
Right.
whoa.
Okay.
I just left his house the other day, and now I'm on the phone with you, and the synchronicities. He's like, let's talk.
Right.
There's so much that can come about if we just get creative and we continue to show up. And like 99% of the problems I solve in consulting for businesses, you need to talk to more people, and you need to talk to more of the right people.
That's right.
And if you want to get here, well, when you were here, you only talked to 500 people. To get here, you need to talk to 1,500.
Right.
And I just helped Brad that you met with the Jacobs Audible. I said to him the other day, because I consult him and I help him as part of my charity work.
Right.
And I told him, I said, hey, you've got 350 people that you called last year to fill this event.
Right.
You need to call 1,500 this year.
Yes.
He said, well, where am I going to find them? I said, you got to find them.
Right.
Let's talk to it, right? Facebook group, this type of person, this type of Facebook group. Go to the moderators of the groups. If someone has 5,000 in their group, go tell them what your cause is, right? What's the email list look like?
Yeah.
What's the voice? How many voice notes a day are you doing on social media?
Yes.
Right? What channels are you doing them on? Are you having an event that's in person? Great. Can you do something virtual so there's not a larger expense, but you can still pour into people and raise maybe some money with low expense and have that money go directly to the next, whatever. But it starts with having more conversations. And a lot of people look at it, and I think this is the struggle that I've heard with a lot of the business owners that I've coached and consulted with. Well, Jim, how do I do that? And they have the answer. I never have the answer. Right? All I do is probe questions.
Yes.
Well, where do you think they're going to be? Oh, this person will be here and here and here. Okay. Well, what are the two platforms you just said? Facebook and LinkedIn. Don't make any content for Instagram. Go live on Facebook and go live on LinkedIn, right? If it's groups, if it's there, they're going to be here. If they usually people sponsor this event or they go to that. Just go where those people are, and just have the conversation. And I said, be vulnerable. If you don't raise this money, you don't have a charity anymore.
There you go.
Go tell people that. Because guess what? If you look me in the eye and tell me why you're helping, who you're helping, and you may not be able to help anymore, I can probably pull out $25. And that $25 may not solve the problem today. But if you have 1,500 conversations and 1,000 people give you $2,500,
it works.
You just solved your problem.
That's right.
But you're going to have to get 500 no's to get those 1,000 yeses. And that's where we give up. That's where we struggle.
Right.
And we all do it.
We do.
It's just what are we going to do to get over that hump?
There you go. You're right.
All right, last question for you. I could go for 4 hours, I feel like, with you, man. We're just diving into it all. I love it. I asked you, after learning, educating, having all those clients, what are those lessons you learned? So you can share with those folks to implement those lessons. What's the thing you've learned most by not taking action?
Ooh.
This was really hard for me to define and to analyze. And the reason why I'm asking you is because I know you think deeply. I know you've engaged with so many people. You've probably heard different stories. You've had your own stories. But I want to talk about the cost of not taking action.
Man, pain. That's a inner sense of pain that is like none other, because I feel like it's like a quarterback that has a throw to the back corner of the end zone that is just, man, remarkable, but he overthrows it. He misses it. That's for all the marbles that would have sent them, man, to the championship game, and he misses it. It's pain, or it's the fear of launching out. So for those who don't know, I have a nickname that I call myself. It's kind of a little goofy, but I'm a silly and kind of goofy guy. I call myself sometimes, my alter ego is Buck Skywalker. And Buck Skywalker has a motto. It says, don't be afraid to walk in the sky. Sometimes you have to be able to have the vision where no one else has the vision. When everyone is saying, no, don't do it. And sometimes those no's are valid, but sometimes it's for only you to do it. That's why you have to be connected with your inner self. That's why you have to have vision. That's why you have to be able to take the journey of you. Because if you're doing stuff that is not in alignment and that is not in value of who you are, you're lost. And then when you're lost, you don't make those throws. You don't take those opportunities. And then the regret starts to seep in. Because there's nothing worse than watching someone else do what you know you can be doing. And it's inside you to do. They just had the balls to do it. That's pain. So then every time that you have a great idea and you're like, man, I wish I had the funding for this. I would have had that funding if I would have just stepped out of there. Man, I wish I would have went to that event or that networking meeting or da-da-da. I would have known Jim, Brad, if I would have went. If I would have just stepped outside of myself. If I didn't make it about, and then let's do it, but if I didn't make it about color, I just made it about being a human, I would have missed those opportunities. I wouldn't have been enlightened. I wouldn't have been upstairs in the bedroom with Brad jumping on the trampoline, telling myself, hey, what does you in your not yet look like? Think about that and think about that, what it feels like now. I never would have been inspired to think differently, more robust, more grander. So I say all that to say it's pain.
Man, what an episode, dude. What an episode. I'm speechless because you've put my mind in so many scenarios that I've played over and over in my life, and what you're saying is why I did the TEDx talk.
Yeah.
What you're saying is why I do some of these crazy, unique, drastically different things, right?
Right.
I don't want to feel that pain, and I don't want to pass the pain of regret to my daughter or to my son.
Yes.
And would I do it for myself? I don't know if I can answer that question, but I would do it for them.
Right.
And that's what pushes me.
Right.
And that's what allows me to get up and take the risk. I said it the night at the event.
Yeah.
I said, this is a new venture for me. I put those rules together out of my head. I didn't pull it in from an event I went to previously.
Right.
I didn't go watch YouTube or read these books. I just sat with myself to say, what's on my heart? What do I believe people need? And what's unique that they don't have and they can't experience today?
Right.
And that was scary. That was tough. I can get on a stage and talk about marketing or personal branding or growth or sales or scaling or hiring or firing or culture or human connection or following your dreams.
Right.
I can get on a keynote stage and do that, but in an intimate setting where I don't even know everybody in the room, but it's intimate enough that everybody feels my heart.
Right.
That's scary still.
Yeah.
For me. And if I didn't do that, would we be sitting here today?
Probably not. Yeah.
If I didn't make that post, would someone say, I know someone who would really enjoy that?
Yes. Yes.
Right? If I didn't get out of my comfort zone and had the limiting beliefs that I'm not a therapist, I'm not someone who should be advising their dreams, I'm not living all mine, why should I encourage others to live theirs? If do I really want to go to a place that's really deep and people are going to be crying and tearing up and trauma dumping? Let's just be real. A lot of people aren't following their dreams because of trauma, and it came out in that dinner, right?
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that was gonna, right? Like, and you're hearing it too of like, from your profession, you're probably like, wow, I could probably meet with some of these people about this, or they need some guidance in a lot of ways. I'm not qualified to do that. I didn't even know if it would get to that.
Right.
But I wasn't shy about it, and I just did it. And I hope that unveiled a lot of pain so they could go get help. I'm not the person to do that, but maybe some people did go get help. There was one woman and there was another gentleman that definitely should talk more about this with a professional, or me. You know, I'm not a professional, but
Right.
with someone, right? And I would advise that maybe that opened up the identity to that this was really good and they should do this on a more regular,
Yeah.
constructed basis with
Yeah.
a professional.
Right.
Maybe it didn't, and they just needed that trauma dump for that
Yeah.
4 minutes they got to share their dream.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I don't have the answers, but what I do know is I saw a level of spark that night. I saw a level of depth. I saw a level of purity, clarification. I saw people, first round they went around, had no idea and wasn't in their heart at all. They're in just logic, and I watched them transition and change in an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I almost didn't do that because of imposter syndrome. I almost canceled the second one because we had a new chef and the original chef couldn't do it. And I've never hired a chef It almost didn't work out where I almost lost money, right? I almost threw an event
Yeah.
to help others
Yeah.
and it cost me $400.
Oh yeah.
That almost happened,
Yeah.
but I took the risk. And what I realized is there's a beautiful opportunity to finesse and continue to grow this and to have some new borders or boundaries,
Right.
and to maybe encourage folks on the front end and get on a call with them and advise them where they could go with this and where they shouldn't go with it. And maybe I need to do some more on the back end and have a better follow-up so they can continue to
Right.
connect and talk with others. But guess what? I was never going to figure all that out the first time or the second. And
That's
if
what
I didn't do it the first or the second time, then I wouldn't be here discussing where I want to
Right,
go, how I
right.
want to develop it. Maybe we do bring someone in that has a clinical background and we can address some of that on the front end and then open it up to be more airy and positive on the back end. Or maybe it's just a different crowd. Maybe I have to ask and probe a question. Who knows? But what I do know is we tried it. It had some really good feedback. And I want to do it again.
Right.
But who knows when, where, or with who. But we'll figure that out too.
That's it.
Man, that was some cat in the hat stuff right there. Did you hear that, Ron?
That's all right, man.
I just want to say thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming to the event. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. Thanks for becoming a friend. Thanks for spending time with me. This was brave, man.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know much about each other, but we spent that night at the event and we had this conversation. I'm just excited to see where this friendship goes and where it grows, man.
Definitely, man.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you on the next episode of Impact Effect Podcast. And oh, baby, do we have another special guest coming next week. We'll see you soon.